Hello and welcome. Campbell here from Autodidactic channel. Hope you're having a fantastic day. And of course, Autodidactic means to be self-educated. And in the clown world we find ourselves in, that is quickly disintegrating, we definitely need to be self-educated and have another look at the reality that we've been given. Because as we look into his story, we find out that that's exactly what it is, just a story written by those who wish to control us and to control our story of the past. So today I'm going to have a look at a town in New South Wales called Dubbo. And Dubbo is a pretty amazing town because it is the town where I was born. But I didn't sail a ship that went to sea. Let's have a bit of a look at the town where I was born, Dubbo. And a bit on Dubbo. Dubbo is a city in the Orana region of New South Wales, Australia. It is the largest population centre in that region. It's located at the intersection of the Mitchell, Newell and Golden highways, and the nearest city is Orange. Dubbo is a major road and rail freight hub to other parts of New South Wales, and it is linked by national highways north to Brisbane, south to Melbourne, east to Sydney and Newcastle, and west to Broken Hill and Adelaide. And the history says that the explorer and surveyor John Oxley, 1784 to 1828, who was born in Yorkshire, England, was the first European to report on the area now known as Dubbo in 1818. The first permanent European settlement in the area was English-born Robert Dulhunty, described as one of the wealthiest citizens in the Australian colony at the time. There are records of squatters being given permission to set up large sheep and cattle stations in the area in 1824, but these were not maintained. And Dubbo has a population of 36,941 people. And here is an old image of a bullock train. Bullock and horse teams in Macquarie Street, south near Cerise's store, circa 1875. Okay, so you can see we've got a huge red brick building here, another big red brick building here. These look like brick buildings as well. And I mean, I'm guessing this is wool in these bales. Horses, bullocks. Now this is 1875, so this is 97 years after Captain Cook apparently landed in Botany Bay, and there was nothing here, nothing at all, just bush and plains. And within 100 years, this is inland. Apart from building all the cities, the main cities, they've also built these inland cities. You know, we've got horses, we've got bullocks, we've got all the factories and manufacturers to build all these carts, wagons, all the buildings, including firing bricks, getting the tin, making the tin, the iron, the mortar. There's just so many things that go into it, and all done within 100 years. Here we have the Courthouse in 1881, and I think this must be the Courthouse. Always a clock. Got our big, pillars at the front, twin pillars here as well. Wall. I mean, and these walls you see them a lot. They're very short. They're sort of, why are they even there? That they prove. Obviously this one's got iron railing on the top, and they might say, oh, well, it was just a base for it, but I don't know. It's either basically it's over-manufactured for a town in Australia, in the country, in 1881. these big, brick foundations and pillars and wrought iron. And where were they making the wrought iron? These are all questions we need to look into. And on Wikipedia, we read the history of Dubbo, evidence of habitation by the Wiradjuri nation dates back over 40,000 years. The explorer and surveyor John Oxley was the first European to report on the area, now known as Dubbo, in 1818. So what was that, 30 years? Is that right? No, 40 years after Captain Cook landed. The first permanent British colonist in the area was English-born Robert Dulhunty and his brother Lawrence. They occupied a property known as the Dubbo Station from the early 1830s on a squatting basis with the passing of the Squatters Act. So squatters in Australia, if you didn't know, were basically, a lot of them were the ex-convicts and others were just free settlers, and they basically were just giving people free land, to try and get the country started. And industry, or so we are told, or were they just trying to restart stuff that they found? And here is one of the old world buildings. We have the Braga Shire Council Chambers, and these were built 1876. The building was constructed, in 1867. The building was constructed in 1867 to the design of architect Hilly. Okay. For many years, it also was the town's finest and only bank until 1876, when the bank moved further north. There we go. So this building here, 1867. And as we see, definitely an old world building. Look up under here. We have, these, I'm not even sure what these are called still. I need to find out, don't I? But we see these on all old world buildings underneath, the sills of the roof. This, obviously we've got the arch windows, we've got the keystones, the columns built into the window frames, all this kind of stuff. And in Australia, you'll find that a lot of the buildings, this is a facade. This is just been covered in like limestone, basically. They just, it's just thin, like tiles of limestone, and they cover it up. This would be a red brick building underneath. This is the Milestone Hotel in Dubbo, built in 1882 at the south end of Macquarie Street. And that's the history we get. 2 lines. Built 1882. Okay, so who built it? Where did all the stuff come from? All the materials? Where were they manufacturing the bricks, the glass, blah, 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 blah. This is what we get. And looking into Dubbo, there is not a lot of history out there. Look at this place, okay? So here we go. We've got our old world building. Again, got all the features, arch windows and things. In Australia, of course, they re-roof them all with tin or wrought iron, as it used to be. Arch windows, but what do we have down here? But a window. So we've got ground level here, and then as it goes back, we're getting deeper and deeper. So we've got a window, got a underground level here. So a mud flooder. And this one, we don't even get an architect or anything for this one. This is the Colonial Mutual Life Building in Dubbo. And this one we get even less. This is the whole page. It just says it's heritage listed. That's it. Doesn't even give us a build date. 3-story building has been repurposed, and in 2013 the ground floor was used as a cafe. That's what we get, okay, for this. Okay, clearly an old world building. Okay, we've got the everything, right? These little columns that we see everywhere, the windows, the columns built around the windows, the porticos, this front bit. That is an old world red brick building, just like the one next to it. and again, this one has been refaced, right? Refaced to make it look like it's Australian. And down here we have one of these big brick bollards, whatever they're called, and old world lights. Again, very tall. And yeah, no architect, no history at all of how this was built, who built it, or even when it was built. The Dubbo Railway Station. So we get a bit of history on this one. Most of the stone structures comprising the Dubbo Railway Station were built between 1879 and 1881 in preparation for its opening in 1881. The station master's residence was completed the same year. So buildings were built between 1879 and 1881, 2 years, in preparation for its being opened in 1881. It's almost, I don't know, sounds like a revamped job. 1891 construction of the lamp room, 1893 west. So they're saying here, you know, they built some buildings in 2 years, and then it basically slowly they built more buildings and made it larger. So let's see what they built in 2 years. So this is just one of the buildings. So again, you know, have our portals, arched windows. This one just one story, so it's looking kind of, you know, a bit like the top story or something. Got our chimneys. But this is just one of the buildings, and again, you can see refacaded with this limestone tiling that they do. And of course, this is a picture from back in the day, and here's this building. That's the train station that we just saw. Big old world light here, and everyone posing for a nice photo opportunity. I'm not sure what this hole going into the ground is. But here we have train tracks. As you can see, all the sleepers, the railway sleepers, are buried. Not sure why, if it's supposed to be brand new. And we have some old world trains here. So again, the question arises, they tell us how they built these. Who built the trains? That may have to be my next video, because there's a lot of iron to build one of these steam engines, a lot. And when you look at countries like Australia, and it's the same with the US, these things were just everywhere. They were popping up everywhere. And the tracks, you know, the amount of iron that you need to build railway systems is ridiculous. And here we have the Macquarie River Railway Bridge. During the 20-year period, 1873 to 1893, there was a massive program of public works in New South Wales, particularly in expanding the road and railway networks, blah, blah, blah. The Bathurst Railway Bridge, still standing but not in use. And here we go. Now this, I mean, you know, talking about iron again, right? These pylons look to be, you know, cement or something, but these, look at these brackets, they're iron. This whole bit here, iron. All down here, iron. What is this? Is that a free energy collector? All iron, right? Where did all this iron come from? We don't have an explanation. I mean, of course, at the moment, you know, there's a lot of iron ore coming out of Australia with the big mining companies, but we didn't have any of that tech back when this was built. You know, so these are the questions that we get. And of course, you know, they love to build the jails. You know, it's always got to be the first thing to build in a new country full of convicts. You build jails everywhere so you can lock everyone up. And of course, jail in Australia, this is how we spelt jail. Obviously, it's sort of changed in the last 40 years or so. The J-I-L has been brought in, J-A-I-L, but it used to be jail, G-A-O-L. So the Old Dubbo Jailed is a heritage listed former jail and now a museum. It was erected on the site of the original courthouse. It is believed to have been officially opened in 1887. So they don't know, right? Many of the buildings, however, were already in existence by this time. Ooh. Many changes and new buildings followed. The surrounding wall also changed shape. It closes the jail in 1966. So, again, they don't know when it was built, how it was built, who built it. There were many buildings, however, were already in existence. And, this is, again, the silly story we get. So here we have the Old Dubbo Jailed. This is the gateway, obviously, to come in. Old world lights. Again, you can see red brick, and they do this facading stuff. And we see this a lot where they just sort of do it over the pillars. And no doubt, underneath these, we'd probably find rounded pillars. But anyway, there you go. The Old Dubbo Jail. Here's a wider shot just to show you it is an old world building. And these were cool. You used to see these a lot, these downpipes. And see how the walls used to go up higher than the roofs. And so the drainage was behind this wall, and it used to pop out and go down. Very cool. And of course this old world iron. Always the same design, always black. And here's another picture now. I think this is a real photo. It says it is. And look at the size of the door here. So, human-sized door in this massive, giant-sized door. And we see that everywhere. And so now I thought we'd have a look at Dubbo on the Google Earths. And as you can see, it's in New South Wales. It's quite a big centre. This is obviously Australia, and as you'll see, there's towns out here, but there's not. It's definitely not heavily populated, shall we say. So Dubbo is one of the centres, and just looking at Dubbo from above, we start to see some familiar features like this river with all these meanders in it. Okay, very reminiscent of star cities that we see. And I'm just looking at the way it's been cut up. Now I'm guessing this is another waterway here, or at least ex-waterway. I'm not really sure. Oh, okay, that's the train track. All right, so that's the train track. Got the water here. And as we know, the water normally goes through the middle of the Star City. So what I see when I'm looking at this is I see this section on one side of the river. And then we always have a star citadel on the other side of the river. And what pops out to me is this. Now, as we know, right, golf courses, they use these to cover up the past. They just, it's perfect. They put their trees, their humps, their sand holes and things, and they just, can basically cover up what they want. Now, what I'm looking at is this bit in the middle. Okay, look at this shape here. Now that, obviously, this is a bit curved. It's been a bit changed, but that could be a star citadel. And what I'm looking at is this outside, what looks like a wall, because when you come down here, look, this looks built up. So this is a lower level, and then we've got a hill, and then we've got upper level. See here? So that's been covered up, and they've put houses on the top of it. And that, to me, I would like to go there with a shovel. No doubt it's one of these golf course estates, but I'd say that's sitting on top of what used to be the Citadel. I mean, look at the shape, it just sort of stands out, doesn't it? And then, of course, we would have other stuff under here. Let's see what else we can find. That's new development. Down by the waterfront is normally where you find the old buildings. It looks like just housing there. Of course, on this side, again, look at all this industrialisation. A grid, right? Squares. So what was there before? But then we have this. Okay, just popping out in the middle, right? The bit that they left. Because what do we get? Straight away. If I turn that around, can you see this? I mean, that pyramid shape we see everywhere, right? So that, to me, is a leftover. And what have we got down here? No doubt some, looks like a statue, some water, something else. So we'll have to have a look at what is this place? And a bit more geomancy in the ground here. I mean, so that's definitely left from the old city, and they've just covered the rest of it all up. So I'll just so there we go. Of course, here we have the racecourse, right? The circuit. We see these as well in all the old world cities. There's actually a few here. This is probably the original, or maybe this one is. Look out here. Horse racing. So, as usual, most of it's been built over and covered up, but we still get, things, all these different lines and things in the ground that probably have no explanation. But that's definitely a telltale sign, and that to me definitely looks like a covered up citadel. And so I've got the Star City, this would be the citadel, so it would have been a fairly good sized city. If you were going through train tracks, station trains, all the stuff. So there you go, that's a bit of a look at Dubbo from the air. Alright, so here's a couple of pics of Dubbo. Of course, old world lights everywhere. Down here. Clock tower, right? Basically a closed-in belfry. Antiquitech up the top here. Got our ball. Got our little copper antenna. Got our tower. The church. Look at this. Straight out of Camelot, right? Castle. These bits that hang off the side that we see, these look like tech. They could be like vacuum tubes, we're not sure. Probably air conditioning. I don't think that's old world tech. But the same thing, covered up, right? Covered in sandstone. Of course, got to have the war memorial, right, with your obelisk. Looks like the top of the obelisk fell off and they put it there. It looks like there should have been a statue or something on there that's had something removed. But of course, we find these everywhere in Australia, and they're always war memorials. Again, inverting the meaning, the true meaning, of what these were. They were connection to the ether, and now they're trying to make them connection to death and war. The courthouse, again, old world lights, twin pillars, and this building could be anywhere in the world. Really could. Another view of the courthouse. They've filled in whatever was up here. It's probably like a window, a fractal window, and now it's just got the coat of arms on it. But of course, the same stuff everywhere. Steps going up, windows, keystones, the whole lot. The railway station. So these must be the older buildings. And again, look just in this picture. 1, 2, 3, 4 steam engines. Imagine the amount of iron and production skill. You need full factories before you can think of making these, and you've got to build the factories out of iron as well, and bricks and all this kind of stuff, and the tracks and old world building. Complete old world building here. Same here. So it's just building. They've found this. Dug it out again. Look, we've got the sleepers here. These ones we can kind of see the edge of them, but all this is just buried still. They've dug the tracks out, what they need, but they couldn't be bothered cleaning the rest off. Another one of the old world buildings. Stairs going up, and these vents going down into the ground. And, you know, same old, same old. In the middle of Australia, little country town. Well, big, but, you know, 30,000 people. Big for Australia. Again, same stuff. And look at this. Alright? We've almost tried to make it look like wood, but it's red brick. Any windows? That looks like a covered up window, doesn't it? But there we go. Old world buildings. And we don't get, you know, any explanation of when or how or who even built some of these buildings. This was the first bank in Dubbo, and here we have all our banksters, right, presenting the new realm. Got their little old red brick building that they've found and cleaned up, and they just rebrand it. Of course, next to another, you know, 2-story red brick building in the 1800s in the middle of Australia, late 1800s. Here's that church again, an early shot. It's a bit small, but again, you know, this church could be anywhere. It's all the same architecture. Arc, right? Arc. Yeah, mud-flooded building, anyone? I mean, this is a great one, right? Street level, and it just goes off, and the windows. You can see they've built around here. Put a little brick wall so the water doesn't get in. And here we have our founders, right? Finders, keepers. Yep, this is our bank. We found it. We saw this one before. This is the Courthouse, late 1800s. I mean, even these carriages, that's a nice carriage. A lot of work gone into that one. Who built it? Dubbo Courthouse, 1889. Stairs up, of course. And I mean, look at the size of this, right? This is a dude. You can see the doors up here. Massive column, massive entrance. I mean, in 1889, okay, so this is, you know, it's over 100 years, 111 years after Australia was, you know, they stepped foot here and there was nothing here. And of course, in the first fleet, when they got to Australia with Captain Cook, well, after Captain Cook, they sent the first fleet, which, you know, landed, I'm not sure the dates, I think it was still I think it was like 1798 or so. And they got here and they didn't, they forgot to bring tools. And this is, I'm serious, this is documented. The first fleet forgot to bring tools, and they had to wait for the next fleet to come to bring supplies. And then they almost starved to death. And the only story you get is that, you know, everyone was starving to death. There was no food left. And then a boat carrying like another 800 people turned up. And it doesn't talk about food or anything. It's just a ridiculous story. And then you put this on top of it. They're building these out in the middle, you know, in the middle of the Australian bush. There's nothing around. You know, where's all the industry? How did they do this? Who built it? Where are all the people? Why? Why does a town in 1889 with, I mean, you know, probably 1,000 people, if that, in the area, why would they need a courthouse like this? And it's always courthouses, isn't it? And jails. It's all bringing their system in, a system of control. This is sort of from the 30s or 40s. But as you can see, you know, the same thing, right? Just Tartarian buildings all the way down. And of course, here we have what they love to do is these balconies in Australia. Put the balcony on the front, and no doubt that'd be a pub. They do it on all the pubs to make them look Aussie. Now this is, I'm pretty sure they said this was Dubbo. So let's see, commercial stores. Can't see anything saying Dubbo, so we'll assume this is Dubbo. Big, massive, wide roads, all dirt. Already got power poles up the... What? Why would you have power poles in the 1800s? You know, this is all horse and cart time. But of course, big 3-story red brick building. And another 2-story red brick building. And another 2-story red brick building. Another one here. And this is what you would expect, right? A wooden, wooden buildings. They've got wood. Why would you, if you could build this and you were setting up a new town, why would you then go, nah, let's go and build a whole industry, find clay, build an industry so that we can then turn that into bricks. Then we'll build another industry so we can make mortar and cement and all the iron and everything else that we need so that we can build a 3-story brick building. I mean, what's the point? Doesn't make sense. Okay, so this is the Overland Stores. Now, would you shop here at Tate and Smelly? Yeah, Tate and Smelly. There you go. Probably didn't have much choice. I'd go for the Tate side myself, stay away from the Smelly. But of course, look, another 3-story red brick building, and a 4-story in the roof. Look at the size of this. So that we've got windows up here. So that's basically a 2-story building. But I wonder what it's like inside. And then, of course, right, look at this massive red brick chimney in the background. And muddy, muddy streets. That's all there is, right? Again, Royal Hotel, been refaced. Dirt roads, big 3-4 story. I think that's the same building. Red brick, just all down the street. We've got like 3 dudes here and a horse. Okay, now these are pictures I found and I could not get a lot of information on them. So if you know anything about this, please leave it in the comments. Now this is near Dubbo. It's in the Dubbo region. And it's called, what I've got is Dubbo Gully Loop. So if anyone's out there and they know about the Dubbo Gully Loop, please let me know what it is or get out there and get some film, because look at this. Just out in the middle of the bush, right, there's nothing around in the middle of the bush. Look what we get. Big stone structures. This, I mean, with these bits jutting out, looking very... South American, really, isn't it? See this? So what are these? A few stones lying around. Just massive structures. I couldn't even find an explanation for them. And then these, and this, again, I'm told is in the same area, and this is called Wine Shanty Hike. And this is an old house by the looks of it. And we have lots of these ruins in Australia all over the place. And we're always told that they're just, settlers' houses and settlers' ruins. But look at this. It's red brick and it's thick. That's a thick wall, right? It looks like it's 1.5 bricks thick. So a lot of materials have gone into just this little bit of wall. That's not, actually it would be the side of the house by the looks of it, but look how thick they are. So all these ruins, I don't think they're settlers and squatters' houses, because the story is that, they go out into the bush in the middle of nowhere and they've suddenly got these resources like bricks and cement and mortar and all this stuff, iron and glass, and they build these big, thick-walled houses. And then they normally stay there 20, 30 years and then they leave. And these things just fall apart. That's the story we get. But pretty ridiculous, really. The public hospital of Dubbo. Again, portals. These are the sort of the keystone or the top of the lintels that they do with bricks that we see everywhere. This, cornering. All the same thing. And of course, the Aussie balcony. Got to whack the Aussie balcony on the front. The veranda. And of course, just everyone, not many people, a couple of horses, but just all these red brick buildings everywhere. Here we have the Dubbo Hospital. Again, massive entrance, red brick, arched windows, stairs going up, columns down here, sunken window there by the looks of it. Some nurses out the front, and all these people want to be in the photo as well. Big photo opportunity. So that's no doubt part of the hospital, but that's a pretty big structure to build. It's like these structures, like the courthouses, the jails, the hospitals, that they build them back, the story says they build them back in the 1800s, 1850s, 60s, up to 1900, when the populations are in the hundreds or, under 10,000 most of the time. But they build all these massive buildings that are all too big for the populations. This is the Dubbo Lands Office. Don't have a date for this one, but again, dirt roads. It looks like the late 1800s. We've got a tree in the middle of the road. Why not? They've surrounded it with wood so that people don't run into it. And again, big red brick building. They've changed it up a bit here, put their wooden little decks in. Verandas, but clearly, windows in the ground, right? Old World in Dubbo. Has that dude got a hard hat on? The courthouse again. MDC. Okay, now it's one. So it's 1,500, 1,850, 1,850. 1,887. Okay, now I can read it. Go on. But yeah, just, so old world. Another train again. Just the amount of iron. Gonna have to look into that. This in the middle of Dubbo, right? Very familiar, octagon, like the bandstands that we see everywhere, or the rotundas. Of course, they've changed the Antiquitech up here. And this one you can clearly see, it's built up off the ground, vents going into the ground, so what is underneath this is the question. And of course, old world building here. These would be old world. And you see this in all the Australian towns. It's all the same everywhere. Oh, there's that smelly man again. Oh. Almost looks like an Arab. But beards were fairly popular. Oh, this dude. Look at the mutton chops on him. Looking very dapper. Looking very dapper, isn't he? And everyone in their pose. Outside. Where are we? The Koala Hotel. The Koala Hotel. So again, hotel, which is a pub. So they had to put the veranda on the top. And refacade it, right? Put all these tiles on to make it look new. Well, but look, this thing isn't even. You can see it's a flutter as well. The Catholic Church, Dubbo, New South Wales. So we saw the other church before, and here we have a different one, because this is what you need, is multiple huge churches and cathedrals when you've got like 1,000 people in the town. Oh gosh, that looks like original Antiquitech, doesn't it? And of course the massive tower in the background. Spire, Antiquitech. Could be a belfry, closed in, not sure. But definitely old world. Again, back in the day, another shot of the tower with its Antiquitech. And even look at the fence here, it's pretty big. This pillar, bollard, column, whatever it's called, are taller than these people. And what else do we have here but one of these? And what are they? Free energy poles, devices. We see them everywhere. and they're wireless. They don't have wires on them, but they are everywhere in old, around the mid to late 1800s. You see them just everywhere. This is just a view in the 20s or 30s of Dubbo, and just to show you, we see this everywhere, right? Big wide streets and just lined with old world buildings, just everywhere. I mean, these all have the same features, and the same features that we see everywhere. It's just, it's just it's just everywhere. Here's another shot, and look at this, another castle. And of course it's red brick. Of course they've put the veranda on the front. And of course it's a photo opportunity. And this guy's even showing us the tech. Look, this is how we built it. We've got wheelbarrows. And it looks like a pub because there's big barrels of beer everywhere. That's a big barrel. Gosh, how would they move these things? J.E. Cerisia, wine and spirit merchant. Well, there you go. Getting the population drunk. So there you go, guys. A bit of a walk through Dubbo, my birth town. Also, they say, I can't actually remember it, but that's how the story goes. And it's a bit of a silly story. We don't get much. Like I showed you, a lot of these buildings, I don't even know when it was built, who built it, who the architect was. They definitely don't know where the materials are coming from. Oh, look, and in this, of course, what do we have? But the old ladder lean. So this could be during the cleanup. Shout out to UAP, Douglas. Yeah, but this is a silly story. And in Australia, what they say is that basically we had the World's Fair. We had lots, but the one in Sydney, the World's Fair, 1880s, it burnt down, and basically they said that they were keeping all the records and everything there, and they all got burned. So that's their explanation for why we don't have many records at all of Australia and where all this stuff came from. Pretty convenient, really, if you ask me. So there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed that one. Like I said, I think I'll be back with a bit of a delve into industry, trains, all this kind of stuff in Australia, because that story definitely can't add up. So we'll delve into that in upcoming videos. So thanks for spending some time with me. Please give me a like, a comment, share this content around if you find it interesting. And of course, a huge thanks to everyone who supports this channel. I really, really do appreciate you all. Thank you to everyone who supports me on PayPal and Patreon, people who are buying merch from the store, and just everyone who's just supporting me through sharing, through comments, likes, and just being generally awesome. And of course, if you would like to help out, there are links below. So thank you for spending some time with me. Have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you all on the next upload. Bye for now.